Hey there, welcome to another video by Bench Coder, and in this video we are going to make this pricing table. So let's just see what we are going to make today. As you can see in this pricing table we have some transparent backgrounds, and then we have our heading, then we have an icon. We'll be using Font Awesome for this, and below the basic top header part of our pricing table you can see we have some description, then we have little more description about the packs, and then we have the buy now button. So similarly we have all these three sections, but you can see the background differs. So today I'm going to show you how to create a pricing table like this, which will be using some PNG image for the background. Okay, so let's start our coding. So as you can see we have my style. I have my styling here, and HTML file will be going here, and the CSS will be going here, and I have already copied all the colors. Text color will be this, and the blue color will be blue, purple and pink. All these three colors I have already copied, and I have created some global CSS. So this is my container element which I have already created HTML for, and then this is a clear fix class just in case if we need to apply that, and I have already applied font, and we'll be using open science condensed form for this. Okay, so let's start coding. So let's first create the HTML for this. Okay, so as you can see we need three similar sections, so we are going to create that. Let me just create pricing wrapper first. Inside pricing wrapper we'll be having three pricing sections, so let's just create pricing sections, and since we'll be needing three of them, and inside each of these pricing sections we'll be having a pricing header, and inside each pricing header we'll be having a heading and an icon. So let's just create a heading, and let's just create some package as heading, and then we'll be having an icon wrapper. And inside icon wrapper we'll be having our, let's just keep this as a wrap, and inside icon wrapper we'll have our inside our icon wrapper we'll be having our icons. So let's just create a simple icon from Font Awesome, FA home damage. Okay, let's just see how it's coming along. Okay, this is coming along okay, but we are having some issue here. Okay, so our pricing heading part is done, so this whole part is done, and then let's create this main text section. So let's just create it as a main pricing content. Inside main pricing content we have two sections. Let's just give this a top content. Let's create some sample content. This is sample content for the top element, and then we'll be having the lower section. So let's just create bottom content, and inside bottom content we'll again have some text, and you can see in bottom content we have a small text and a large text. So what we are going to do, we are going to wrap this first, and then we'll create top, and in top class we'll give all extension included, and then in the bottom we'll create a bottom part, and what is the text, save more than $9.99. okay, let's see whether it's coming along properly. Okay, so our middle part is done, so we are done with this part. Now we have to give a button wrapper, so let's just create our button wrapper as well. So we'll be creating our button wrapper, inside button wrapper, I'm going to create this as a link tag. So let's just create a tag and give this a class of we don't need any class, we are already styling it based on the wrapper. So just give it buy now and let's see how it's coming along. Okay, so let's make sure our code is coming along properly. Okay, so everything is inside pricing wrapper. So this will be wrapper for all these three divs. Inside pricing wrapper we have three pricing sections. You can see three pricing sections, and inside each pricing section we have a pricing header with a heading and an icon wrap. Inside each pricing header we have heading and icon. So you can see heading here and icon here, and then we have pricing content. Pricing content will be this part, and in pricing content we have top content and bottom content, and we have some text here. As you can see, top content and bottom content. Inside bottom, as you can see, we have a text with large and small text. So we have a top and a bottom class inside that, and we have some text inside it. So similarly we have this for all the three sections, and at last we have a button wrapper. So, and button wrapper will have a link with the buy now. Okay, so let me just indent all of these properly and I'll come back to this. So now our indentation is done, and you can see we have pricing header, main content and main pricing content and bottom content part. Okay, and then we have the button wrapper, and we have to add additional classes. So as you can see, we have a blue, purple and pink background, so I'll be adding additional classes for these as blue, purple and pink. Okay, so let's just see how it's looking in our HTML. So right now it's looking something like this. So let's start with styling. So first thing which we have to do is we have to make these 30% of the containers width. So let's just start. Everything will be start. So let's just start coding. So everything will be comparative to the pricing wrapper. So let's just start creating all the compiled SCSS will be shown here. So if you are not familiar with SCSS, you can see here. And in pricing wrapper, we'll be styling our pricing section. So each pricing section, let's just make sure that we have proper display for our pricing section. And since we'll be using flex here, so let's just define our display flex, and we also want to make sure that it is wrapping our content. So let's just define flex wrap to row and justify content to ensure that there is proper space between these. Let's just give it as justify content space between, and then let's start creating pricing section. So we want this to have width of 30% of our pricing wrapper. So let's see how it looks. Okay, so now you can see these pricing sections are having proper 3-column layout. So we can start doing next part. Okay, so now we have this top header. So let's just see what is the height of these top headers. Okay, so these top headers are somewhere around 180 pixels in height. Let's just make sure we have their width as well. So these are 200 pixels in width. Just in case, let's just note down their width in case we'll have to apply max width to these. So we'll be using 200 pixels. For now I'll be commenting it. And inside pricing section, let's start with the pricing header styling. So we are styling pricing headers, this part. So pricing header, so let's just give it a minimum height of 180 pixels, and a background of BG pink, and as you can see I've already copied this color as purple as pink BG, so you can see it here. So it should be pink BG. Okay, so now you can see every style has a pink BG color, and inside pricing header all the colors will be white. So let's just define white colors. Let's just keep our default color as blue. Pink is not that good, so let's just change it to blue. Yeah, so blue is looking much better comparatively. And let's start giving with the padding. So let's apply a padding of 25 pixels. It looks sensible for this. Okay, so 25 pixels padding. Now as you can see we have rounded borders, but we'll be applying rounding borders on our pricing section. So we'll be applying it on the outermost div for each section. So this is going to be pricing section, and let's just apply our border radius, and let's just give it as 5 pixels and see how it looks. Okay, so we have to apply overflow hidden as well. Yeah, so now you can see we have the overflow hidden added as well. So let's just change these width to 200 pixels and see how it's looking in that case. Let's just define the max width. Okay, these packs are looking fine. So let's just change this to space around. Okay, now these are coming in center. Now let's do the heading. Okay, since headings are inside pricing header, so let's start with this. And heading, let's just see which the font size. Heading size is a bit bigger, so let's give it a size of 24 pixels and font weight of normal. And since all the text is center line here, so let's just give it a text line center. You can, in the design you can notice everything is center line, so instead of giving it here, let's just define our center line on pricing section. Okay, so now text is cutting as center line, and this is looking okay. So let's just change our text first. Basic, standard, and premium. And let's see how it's looking. Okay, so now our text is changed, and this is our font. Okay, now font is looking okay. Let's start giving them font. So our home image is not working. Let's see whether this works. No. Okay, so let's do the second home, and again let's change this to FA home. And the last one which we will be using is warehouse. So we'll be using warehouse. Okay, so now all the fonts are coming up properly. So let's just change these fonts and to make them look like they are in our design. So we have already styled the styling, and we'll be styling our icon wrapper here. So based on our icon wrap, let's give this icon wrap some padding so that we can get a proper distance between these two, and we'll just give it a top bottom padding. So just give it a 30 pixels and left right be 0, and inside this we want any text inside it to have a font size of 80 pixels. Let's see how 80 pixels looks on our font. Okay, so this is looking okay in my opinion, but let's just try 72 for a change. Yeah, so 72 is fine as well. So we'll be using this setting. So we are done with this part. Now let's start defining the backgrounds. So heading is done, icon wrap is done. So we'll be using before and after for this. Before will be position absolute according to our pricing header. So it will be position absolute relative to the header. So let's just define position here. And after we have to define content or else it won't be visible, and we want its width to be 100%, height to be somewhere around 60 pixels, and then we want this to be position absolute, left should be 0 and right should be 0. So this is all about positioning at the moment. So that's okay. Now let's start with this specific properties, and since in before we'll be using same images as well, so let's just use the background URL, and I already have the image with me in my image file. You can see it here. So wave3.png. so img/wave3.png file, and we want them to repeat on X. So let's just define it as repeat X, and then let's see how it's looking right now. Okay, so it should be bottom 0. Okay, so instead of background repeat X, let's just see how the background size works. 100%. The background is coming, but it's not coming how we want it to come. Let's see what's the issue here. Let's comment out our refresh code. Okay, so this is our okay. So background size is not being applied. Okay, let's just decrease the heading here. Its height is a bit too much. Okay, so as you can see, after giving background size 100% and changing our height, we have this. So now both are before and after coming on top of each other, but what I want is I want to shift my after. Okay, so let's just change its left to -20 pixels, something like this, and see how it looks. Okay, it's looking okay, but not that much, so let's try something else. Okay, so we have to use background shadow. Instead of background shadow, I'll be using drop shadow, and drop shadow is a filter. So let's just make sure filter is applied properly, and let's see how this looks. For now, I'll be using black shadow. Just let's use white shadow, just like in our design. Solid shadow should be fine for now. Let's see how it looks. Okay, I think we should just use black one to differentiate. Okay, so shadows are working here, and as you can see, they are coming up properly, but it's not looking that good. So let's just adjust our top for our after. Why I'm adjusting? Okay, instead of top we have to adjust our bottom. So let's see, bottom negative 20 pixels. Let's just increase this a bit. This is too much in my opinion, so let's just decrease it. And let's see how increasing our box shadow works over here. So let's just increase our blur first to 10 pixels. Yeah, blur is fine. Let's just increase our opacity, decrease our opacity as per our design as well. So let's just try our 0.9 opacity, and that should be applicable to both before and after, but it's not working. So 0.85 should look okay in my opinion. And in 8.5, as you can see, what is the issue here? We are using our black shadows, right? So let's just change these to white. And let's just decrease our glow. Maybe let's just increase our spread to 10. Okay, so after applying our bottom, as you can see, it's looking something like this, which we definitely don't want. So let's just define left to negative 10 pixels and bottom let it be 0. In this bottom, let's define it 7, and let's define its left as 40. And since you can see in this design we have the opacity, so let's just add opacity to both of the before and after, and we'll be using 0.8 for this. And I don't want to use this black shadow, so let's change this to white. It will be looking something similar to our design. And let's just increase our glow to 10 pixels and see how it looks. Okay, so it's looking something similar to our design. Let's just fix this problem. Okay, so this is looking pretty okay, and left is a bit too much. Let's change this to 25 pixels and see. Okay, so 25 pixels is a bit too high as well, so let's decrease this bottom to -5. Okay, so this is looking okay. This is looking just fine, and let's start adding insert shadows to our header. So we'll be adding box shadow to our header, and it's going to be 0, 0 and 40 pixels. We want this to our insert shadows to be a bit high, and it's going to be white. And let's see, let's just define it as insert as well. Okay, so now you can see our shadow is being applied, and we have to add a glow to our boxes, each of the boxes. So for now, let's add our blue glow to all the boxes. As you can see in this design, we have glow around each of the boxes. So let's just start adding glow to our boxes as well. How we are going to add that? Again, we'll be using box shadow here, 0, 0, and it's again going to be a high number, and for now default is going to be blue BG. Let's see how it's looking here. Okay, so a shadow is already there. Let's add a border as well, so that we have differentiation between shadow and borders, shadow and content. Solid and blue BG. Let's see how it's looking. Okay, so it's not something which we want. Let's see how this looks. Again, it's the same issue. Instead of borders, let's use our RGB value for the colors. So it's going to be okay. So after adding RGB shadow, it's looking much better. After adding RGB shadow, it's looking a bit better, and I think that should suffice for now. And let's start doing our main content section here. And okay, so in our main content, you can see we have top padding and bottom padding. So let's start measuring the paddings. Okay, so I'll be using 35 pixels as padding. So our pricing header is done for now, and now we are doing our main pricing content. So main pricing content, and inside main pricing content, let's add our padding first. So as you can see, we have in our design we have quite a bit of padding. So let's add 35 pixels as padding for all the sides, and see how it's looking. And let's just make sure it's refreshing again automatically. Okay, so our padding is applied. Then again, our text is a bit bigger here, so let's increase font size to 18 pixels. Okay, so also, since we have separation between top and bottom section in our design, as you can see, top and bottom, so let's add a margin to our top content. content margin bottom. Okay, so now we are getting our margin as well. So maybe let's just add a bit more margin. 25 pixels should work just fine. And as you can see, we have a bit larger bold text, so let's just change the font weight for our bottom content, and we are using bold font here. See how it looks. Bold is a bit too much, let's use normal. Okay, it's 400. Bold is a bit too much, let's increase the font size in that case. Maybe not. Let's change our paddings first to 20 pixels. Okay, so our design is looking something what we want like in our design, but we have an issue with the lower text of our bottom content. So let's just decrease the size of bottom. So as you can see, this is the bottom content, save more. So we will be changing its font size to 14 pixels, as is quite a bit smaller than our this content, and let's just make this bold. Font weight should be bold. Okay, so font weight is bold now, so this is okay. Let's just change. Okay, let's just keep it as bold. So now we have to style our buy now button. So buy now button is inside our button wrapper, and let's add. So now you can see this buy now button, it's having its own glow here. So again, let's start styling. First, let's just make it a display inline block first, and let's just add some paddings to the top bottom, and the padding is going to be 20 pixels and 40 pixels, and we need border radius as well, so let's define it as 40 pixels and remove the text decoration from this as well. And since the text is all caps, we'll have to change the font variant to text transform to uppercase. Let's see how it's looking. We haven't defined the background yet, and background is going to be white again. Also to note, we need to add a glow here, so let's add a glow, and the glow is in form of box shadow again, so we'll be doing 0 0. Let's just add 5 pixels, and again we'll be using blue BG for this. So now we have the glow, but since we want this to come outside of our div, we have to make sure that its position aligned properly. So let's just give it a position relative and bottom 50%. Let's just give it a top 50%. Now as you can see, it's being hidden because we applied overflow to our pricing wrapper. And so to make our top and bottom part of this wrapper, as you can see, we have already applied overflow hidden on our pricing section, and each pricing section, because we wanted the rounded border, but if we have that, then we can't have our buying button overflowing this div. So to fix this, we have to first remove overflow hidden from our pricing section. So let's just remove our overflow hidden first and see where is our button. Okay, so it's coming too much low, so we have removed the overflow, and let's just fix our top first, and let's just give it a 50 pixels and see how it looks. Okay, it's too much. Okay, so 20 pixels is just fine. Let's just decrease its top bottom padding to 10 pixels. Okay, so now it's looking something similar to what we have in our design, but our design has a bit more spread out glow, so let's just change this to 15 pixels. Okay, so glow is spreaded. Now since we want our bounded borders, so we have to fix that. We'll be applying border radius to our top and main content. So let's apply our border radius to our header. We already have overflow hidden over there, so mine's okay. So we have an issue here. It should be border radius. Let's just remove our insert shadow from our pricing header for now. Let's see. So this is looking much better in my opinion without insert shadow, so we'll be using it like this only. So we have our border radius on our top header, but we still want our radius on the bottom part. So how we are going to do this? We are going to define our radius on main content. So let's just define it on button wrapper. So where is our button wrapper? Okay, so after applying this, you can see we have our border radius on the bottom and the top part. So this issue is fixed. Now we have to remove overflow hidden from our pricing header. We can't remove that. Okay, so this is looking okay in my opinion. So what we have to do, as you can see, we are having some issue over here, so we have to fix it. For that we have to apply fixes on our left and right for before and after. Let's see how these settings looks. Okay, so this looks okay in my opinion, so we'll keep it like this. And now we have to start individual section. So as you can see, I already added blue, purple and pink classes to all the pricing section. So now since our pricing header is defined, we don't use box shadow here, and we're not applying border overflow hidden in our pricing section, so we'll be removing those. And these are the properties, icon, wrap and before and after. So we have fixed our left and right according to our images. Okay, so now we have to apply our colors. So we'll be overriding colors using blue, purple and pink classes, and we have to style those for our section, pricing section. Since as you can see, I have applied classes on the pricing sections, so let's start doing that. And we'll be changing colors for background and the shadows. So let's do that. So first style well purple color, and for purple we'll have to style our pricing header, which is inside pricing header, right? So let's just start styling pricing header. And since we have to change background here, so let's just change it to purple BG and let's see how it's looking. Okay, pricing header is not taking place. Pricing section, I've applied this purple class. Okay, we have made a couple of mistakes. So these main content, pricing content, all should be inside this, inside our pricing section only. So let's just shift those. And this and purple. Now since we are styling relative to our pricing section, so we have to make sure that we have the class for pricing wrapper. So pricing wrapper dot purple should be, so if we apply dot purple class to any pricing section, our background should be purple. So as you can see, background is coming, and I'll show you the output CSS as well. So I added and dot purple, and the output would be something like this: pricing wrapper pricing section dot purple. So whenever I'll apply purple class to any pricing section, it will change the color to purple. And since we are styling pricing header for this, so you can see our background is here. So now we have to change box shadows as well. So let's change box shadow for our purple class. What is the box shadow we are using by default? It's 15 pixels. And let's just take its RGB value. It's 1/4. Okay, 14339 and 247. And let's just change the shadow, and let's see. Okay, I've made some mistake. Okay, this is my mistake. It's box shadow. Okay, I forgot to add a semicolon here. Okay, so now our shadow is also coming up nicely. Now only the issue is with our button. So to fix this issue, we have to style our button wrapper. As you can see, we have applied color on button wrapper, so we'll be changing the box shadow for the button wrapper as well. And the button wrapper is inside again the main section. So you can see now our button is also having our purple class, but I made a huge mistake in this while creating this. I added border radius and display inline to our as you can see to our button wrapper, but I don't want to add this to button wrapper. We have to style our A, so let's just change this to button wrapper A, and same thing here. So this, all these issues should go. So let's just ensure this is our link. So now you can see this is coming up properly, and the styling is again taking place on A tag. So we just changed this from button wrapper to A tags. So first and second under, let's start with the purple color. We can just copy this and change the class to pink and change our color. So let's just notice this color. Change this to pink BG. Okay, so now you can see we have basic, standard, premium, and this is sample content, our main content, and this content. So let's just increase the size of our middle content. This sample content, it's looking a bit less. So okay, so we have added some sample content here. So now let's see whether it's looking something similar to what we have in our design. Okay, so in our design we have a blue header, purple header, pink header with the rounded borders. We have the rounded borders, we have the heading, we have our icons. So you can use any icon you want. I'm using Font Awesome for this example. And then we have our background with the transparency, which is present here. We have this. I'm using a separate PNG, but you can use any PNG which you want. And then we have the text. We have the text again, the bottom text, and then we have the buy now button. But there, as you can see, our style for buy now is not matching. So we'll just fix that. And in our button, border radius is a bit less, so let's just remove this and see. Okay, so now it's coming up nicely. Now if you remember, initially we changed our max width to 200 pixels. Let's just remove the max width and see how it's looking. Okay, so now I think it's fine. Let's just change our max width to 300, and 300 is good value, I think. Yeah, so 300 is fine. Okay, so basic part is done. We are done with pricing. We are done with pricing header. As you can see, this is our pricing header. So pricing header CSS is here, pricing wrapper, and all the sections are here. Let's just decrease the HTML part, increase the CSS just in case. You can see pricing header, all the CSS. It's better if you watch it in here. It is the pricing header. So pricing header CSS is done, main pricing content CSS is done as well, button wrapper, and then we style purple, pink, and this. So the benefit of doing classes pink, blue, and purple class is, instead of doing nth of type 1 and nth of type 2, is suppose if you want to change purple to pink and pink to purple, you can just change your class and the colors will change, and no internal CSS has to be changed. So similarly, if you want to change between blue and pink, you can just add a pink class. You don't want blue, you can just add the pink class and it will be here. And let's say if you want 2 purples and 1 pink, you can do it something like this. So let's just undo this. So that's the benefit of doing CSS the way we did. Now we want to make this responsive. Let's see how it looks on mobile resolutions. So okay, so as you can see, it is getting squished after 720. 720 is fine. After 720 it's becoming too small, and I don't want it to be looking like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give each of the section as its own block. So let's see, we'll be doing media query now. So we'll be defining it as at 764 pixels at media, max width 764 px, and it's going to be for pricing wrapper. And let's just change its display. Okay, its display is going to be like that only. And okay, so we have to style our pricing sections, and in pricing section let's just give it a margin auto and width 100%. So we want to style a pricing wrapper. I'll be removing display flex from here and converting it to display block again, and I want my pricing content to be of 100% size instead of 30%. We will change its width to 100% and margin to auto. Also we'll be adding a margin bottom of 50 pixels. Let's see how it's looking. Okay, so as you can see, also if you'll note, I added a property called flex wrap, which should be flex direction. So let's see how it's looking. So on higher resolution, as you can see, it's coming as in 3-column layout, and as we go down it's decreasing in size, and once we reach to our 764 threshold, it's becoming as a display block and they are coming as a block. So okay, so let's just ensure that it's correct with our design. We have heading, we have our icon, we have text, and we have our bottom text and the buttons. So as you can see, we have our headings on all 3 sections, then we have an icon, then we have our main content and our section lower content and our buy now button. So this is looking similar to what we have in our design, and I'll say we are done with this. So that's all for today. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button.